Good morning, welcome back to the channel. It's been a while. I always start my videos with "it's been a while," but today's video is about my ultimate decision to sell my Olympus OM-1. If you saw the last video, there'll be a link in the section below this. If you saw my last video, you'll know that I had a dilemma. I couldn't work out which of the two systems, my Sony or my Olympus system, to keep. And since that point, which is a couple of months ago now, I've really hardly ever gone out with either camera, and that's partly due to the fact I can't make my mind up which one I'm going to take with me. I've occasionally gone out, but when I've taken one camera, I've missed the other one, and vice versa. So, long story short, MPB, who are not sponsoring this video, but they can if they want to, receiving a package probably Monday now, because I sent it yesterday, which was Friday, with my OM-1 in and two OM lenses, plus two Tamron lenses. My reason for getting rid of the OM isn't that I like it. I do like it a lot, but I found after exhaustive image comparisons that I simply couldn't live without the resolution my Sony can give me, or the quality of image the glass in front of the Sony sensor gives me. As you know, in the last video I've said that I have a Sony 20-70G lens. I also have a 70-200 f4, both are f4 lenses, and to be quite blunt, they are stunningly sharp all across the image. There's virtually no chromatic aberration to talk about. When I compared them with the two Tamron lenses I had, which was the 17-28, the 28-200, the image quality was very close on the Tamron. It was difficult to call the difference between them, but one of my main concerns was in the corners the Tamron was quite soft, and it displayed noticeably more vignetting on areas of intense contrast. Typically a blank sky with some leaves in front of it, and there was some terrible purple fringing. You can probably hear it's pouring down with rain. Let me just spin you around and let you see what we're having to deal with here in Kent on the day after the longest day of the year. We have a virtual monsoon happening out here. Good for the plants, but it's not very good for taking pictures easily. So, long story short, the OM-1 is going back to MPB, or at least I might even have got it from them in the first place, but it's certainly going there. And I've got a 12-24 Sony G lens coming, which is a part exchange. Is it correct to say part exchange? I'm not sure, because I'm getting money back from MPB from all my Olympus gear, plus some of the money's been used to pay for the Sony lens, but I still get money out of the deal, so I'll be quids in, and I'll have an additional wide lens. I do like the 12-24. I've had a couple of them in the past. They've always been really sharp, a little bit of a specialist use case, but I often actually do make those sort of images, so I'm pleased to get one back again. I'm basically finding the 20mm lens just not quite wide enough for some of the things I do. And yes, I know I can actually stitch two images or four images together to get a wider field of view, but a lot of the time the images I'm taking are including movement, for instance water or leaves, if it's a windy day. And stitching images together under those conditions is less than ideal, I find. So I'd rather just have a single shot taken with a wide enough lens to get everything in one go. Anyway, I'm going to move you across to the computer, and I'm going to show you the image comparison I did with my test chart. Let's just spin you around and show you the test chart. The test chart is currently behind my bronze dog. It's been outside, but as you can see, the rain has fallen on it and made it a little less than perfect. But I took the pictures I'm going to show you before the rain came. It's going to dry out, hopefully. It's all wrinkly at the moment, but that's quite a high resolution chart, and I had it outside on that little flower pot stand there, and from inside the house the tripod is sitting next to my work desk, and I was basically using a tripod to ensure there was no risk of movement. And I took several pictures at different focal lengths with the Olympus, then with the Sony with the Tamron lenses, and then the Sony with the Sony lenses. And the net result is basically what I'm going to show you, that the Sony lenses in reality just blow away anything that either the Tamron can generate, although the Tamron's very close, as I've just said, but also definitely the 12 to 100 Pro Olympus lens is just not in the same ballpark. Just so that you're clear, the Sony is a 62 megapixel camera. The Olympus OM-1 is a 20-something, 20.2 or something megapixel, but I was shooting the shots at high-res mode, which meant they were generating 50 megapixel shot. So 50 to 62 is not a massive difference. So I think it's a relatively fair comparison. But let's move across to the computer. I'll start screen recording and then we'll move on to actually looking at the pictures and you'll see what I saw. Okay, here we are in Lightroom, and what we've got are, I've got the comparison, the reference and the actual picture that's being targeted here. What we've got on the left-hand image is, it is a Sony image, and it's at 200 millimeters with the 70-200 f4 G OSS Mark II. And on the right we have this ORF file, which is slightly less resolution at 8160x120 compared to 9504x6336, and that's the Olympus OM-1 with the 12 to 100 f4 lens, which at 100 millimeters is 200 equivalent in full frame. So that's pretty much why the images are pretty close in size, although not 100% because of the slight resolution difference. An f4 on the Olympus lens is technically f8 on the Sony, so it's not completely one for one, but I wanted both lenses to be at the sharpest they can be, and I believe f4 is the sharpest on the 70-200. So if we zoom into that image here, and then the Olympus image here at 100% on both, you'll see immediately the contrast is much higher. It's much blacker. The blacks are blacker on the Sony image and the whites are whiter. You might notice there's a slight sort of mottling of brown here. This image was taken just when it started to rain about half an hour ago, and that's the kinks in the surface reflecting light differently. It's not that the colour's different, it's just that light is being reflected differently off this because it's got damp patches on and not completely flat, which isn't ideal, but the other one is completely unblemished. So my bad for that, but here we are. We've got those two images. Now if I zoom in further, I think what should become apparent quite quickly is what I'm talking about. So if we take a section of this image and we take a similar section of this image, I think you now immediately can see what I'm talking about. The Olympus image at its best at 50 megapixels is not a patch on the image that the Sony can generate. The contrast is obviously far higher, and you almost can see individual pixels either being black or white here. But in the case of the Olympus image, the transition from dark to white, or black to white as it's supposed to be, is across multiple pixels, whereas the Sony, it's really clearly only across one or two at most. So clearly the Sony image wins hands down in that respect in terms of ultimate resolution. But surprisingly as well, the colours seem more natural from the Sony. These were shot at different times, so I don't want to draw too many conclusions from that. But I have noticed that the colours seem more vibrant on the Sony, partly because the contrast, as demonstrated by that test chart, being better should make the colours more vibrant as a result of that. Anyway, that's the reasoning behind my choice and what I've done in terms of removing the OM-1 from my system and hopefully stopping the logjam of me not taking any pictures because I can't decide which camera to take. Anyway, long story short, I'm going to concentrate on the Sony. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to get the 12 to 24 G lens, f4G lens, to complete my lineup. So I should be covered for most things, and hopefully that'll encourage me to get out and take more pictures. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you found that a little bit interesting in some respects. Please leave comments below. I do appreciate it. And also a thumbs up would be really good, if I can find where the thumb is. it's not, there it is. Yes. Anyway, until the next video, have a great time. Go out and take lots of pictures,